everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to revisit this concept of the United States kind of being laid out like the camp of Israel, with essentially Missouri being the tabernacle, the western states being Ephraim, and the eastern states being Judah. And I'm going to show you why. Okay, I brought this up in another video where we were talking about Jewish populations, LDS populations, where they're primarily located, and the United States. So I thought that this idea was kind of done until I realized something kind of pretty incredible. So you're definitely going to want to watch this one. So this is how it went. Okay. First, there's something going on right now in St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri. Where's St. Louis, Missouri? If you're not familiar with U.S. geography or the geography of Missouri, you have Kansas City over here on the western border of the state. In fact, the metro area spills over into Kansas. And this is where Jackson County is, right? Independence, Missouri, the center place where New Jerusalem will be built. On the eastern side of the state, you have St. Louis, and it's on the border with Illinois, and its metro area spills over the border into Illinois. Okay, so I saw some news coming out of St. Louis. I guess they've been having like really heavy rain. I just want to show you a few things here, and then we're going to get into the camp of Israel and some pretty incredible stuff. Okay, so this is from 5 on Your Side. From photos to front pages, this is what St. Louis 1915 rainfall record looked like. It says, a century-old rainfall record was shattered on Tuesday. That was yesterday. St. Louis. Historic rainfall totals fell on St. Louis Monday night into Tuesday morning, breaking a 100-year record to set a new all-time daily rainfall record for St. Louis. The extreme rainfall occurred early Tuesday morning, with St. Louis Lambert International Airport receiving a daily total of 8.63 inches of rain, shattering the old daily rainfall record of 6.85 inches set back on August 20th, 1915. So that is a pretty big difference. Okay, if 6.8 was the record and we just received 8.6, that is a big difference, and that's kind of incredible. Okay, so looking over here, street turns into a river, damaging cars and homes in University City. So you kind of see a clip of it here, a screenshot. Over here, Weather Channel, St. Louis flooding, at least one person dead, 100 rescued. So thankfully, we haven't had very many fatalities from this at all. And now this is from 19 hours ago, so I don't know if I wasn't able to see anything that said that there's been more dead or anything like that. So that could change. And then 100 rescued. And then here you see a picture of, a parking lot in cars all the way, with water all the way up to the doors in this parking lot. So this by itself, you can say that this is a sign of the times, obviously. Anything, and there's been so many of these things that have been happening where you have 100-year records, 800-year records, 1,200-year records, right? The current drought in the West, the mega drought, is the worst in 1,200 years. And there's a lot of those kind of things going on right now. They're all signs of the times. Okay. They're all signs of the times. So, I was reading through this and I was wanting to share it with you. And then I had a realization about St. Louis. Okay. I had a realization about St. Louis because, when we go back here, and we're looking at the camp of Israel, what I had said before is essentially the U.S. is kind of laid out like this. What do I mean by that? Okay, take a good look. Okay, so you have the tabernacle in the middle. Judah is camping on the very east side of the camp. Ephraim is on the very far west side of the camp. They're like opposite of each other with the tabernacle in the middle. Okay? And so when you look at the map of the United States, you have Missouri that's in the heartland of the United States. Okay? You zoom out, and we all know that, we have members of the church in every state, everywhere, but the highest concentration of Latter-day Saints is in Utah specifically. And then expanding from there, just the Western United States in general. Okay. But Utah is directly west of Missouri. Okay. And then the majority of Jews live mostly up here in like New England, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And I want to show you that, okay, just to remind everybody of the stats. So when it comes to Jewish worldwide population, the most, according to this is, excuse me, this is jewishvirtuallibrary.org, countries with the largest Jewish population as of 2021, 7.3 million of them here in the United States, making the United States the largest Jewish population in the world, the country with the largest Jewish population, followed by Israel, and then you have other countries. And we talked about this more in depth in the other video. In fact, this is the video right here. I'll put this in the description if you want to go deeper into it. Okay. Now, in the United States, as far as members of the church go, it's a very similar number. We have 6.7 million in the United States. Okay. 6.7 members of the church, 7.3 Jews in the United States. So it's similar. It's a very similar number. Worldwide, it's also a similar number. We are almost to 17 million worldwide. And for Jews, let's see, I can't remember if there's... no, this is... Sorry, I didn't think about that before I did this, but it's something close to, something close to 17 million. I've talked about it before in other videos. So now when we zero in on the United States, okay, you can see by state that the vast majority of them are in the East. So I wanted to make sure, I wanted to quantify it. Here's a map to give you kind of like a general sense of where they are. There's a high concentration, just like I was saying, here in the Northeast, but then you also have a large population in Florida and a large one in California. But I wanted to see if you were looking at Missouri and you broke it down by how many Jews are east of Missouri, how many are west of Missouri, how many are south, how many are north. This is what I came up with. I put together a spreadsheet, just like I always do. And this is what it looks like. Let me zoom in. All right. So column B is east of Missouri. Column E, don't worry about the letter skipping. So B is east. The next one is west. The next one is north. The next one is south. And then the last one is Missouri itself. And then you can see the name of the state in the first column. Okay. So the state with the most Jews is New York. And that probably isn't a surprise to anybody. I feel like I've known that for a long time. After that, the next highest is California. After that, Florida, so on and so forth. So what I did is I separated the numbers into east, west, north, and south. And then I did the total at the bottom. And this is how it turns out. The vast majority of them are in the East, with 5.1 million in the East. Next is the West with 1.8, North 71,000, South 17,000, and then Missouri itself has about 64,000. Okay, so you can say that if you're calling the church the Northern Kingdom, or if you're calling them Ephraim is definitely in the West, And Judah, if you're calling all Jews Judah, which of course there's other tribes within there, but the majority of them are probably from Judah. Judah is in the east of the United States. Okay, so let's look again at this. So if this side represents the eastern United States, and this side represents the western United States, and this represents Missouri, this matches up pretty well with Jewish and LDS populations. So already, I think that that's pretty incredible. Okay, I think that's pretty incredible. Now, when I was looking at this story coming out of St. Louis, I was thinking about doing this story, and I was thinking about explaining the geography. Oh, you guys, okay, St. Louis is on the opposite side of the state. And then I had a realization, because St. Louis is famous for a landmark. There's a landmark in St. Louis. It's called the Gateway Arch. And I'm sure that you've seen this before. So what is the Gateway Arch? Let me read from Britannica. Gateway Arch, monument in St. Louis, Missouri, that sits along the west bank of the Mississippi River. The Gateway Arch takes its name from the city's role as the quote-unquote gateway to the west. During the westward expansion of the United States in the 19th century, during the 1800s, the Gleaming Archway, part of Gateway Arch National Park, commemorates the Louisiana Purchase in 1803 and the subsequent opening of the West to settlers following the Lewis and Clark expedition, 1804 to 1806, which began nearby. Okay, so this is a symbol of opening up the West, access to the rest of the country, expansion, going west. Okay. Now, that caught my attention because if you expanded New Jerusalem, or just the idea of New Jerusalem, and you applied it to the entire state, which I'm not saying that that's going to be the size of the city. But what's interesting is that the state that New Jerusalem will be in, on the very far east, you have this gateway. You have a gateway, a very prominent, look at this thing. Look how big that is, this arch. And by the way, I'm going to get to that in a minute. So, big, huge arch, you go through it, you're going toward the west, right? Okay. So, anyway, I found that interesting, and I started to look into it. See what I could find out. Let me read a few more things. Here's more about what it's about. According to the competition's call for submissions, the new monument was to serve as a living memorial to Jefferson's vision of greater opportunities for men of all races and creeds. I was talking about President Jefferson. Speaking of his design, Saarinen said the arch symbolized the gateway to the west, the national expansion, and whatnot. So I was looking through here, of course I came across Wikipedia. I found one interesting thing here. It says, many locals did not approve of depleting public funds for the cause. Smith's daughter, Salise, related that when, quote, people would tell him we needed more practical things, he would respond that spiritual things are equally important. And, he probably wasn't thinking of our church when he said that, or even Judaism. But it's interesting that he referred to this as a spiritual thing. That stuck out to me. Okay, but that's just a minor detail. There's more. So I wanted to see, when was it constructed and stuff like that. Let me refresh this page. Okay, so I saw in the Wikipedia page that it was completed in 1965, but it wasn't inaugurated until June 10th, 1967. And that caught my eye, 1967. And maybe some of you know why. Just to verify that information, I came here to stl.news. Okay. Stands for St. Louis. The monument became accessible to the public on June 10th, 1967. So again, and sorry that I'm taking this so slow, but this big, gigantic symbol of access to the west, the portal through which you go to the west, opened. It was available to the public starting on June 10th, 1967. You know what happened on that day? The 6-Day War ended. The 6-Day War ended in Israel. And if you know anything about the 6-Day War, you know that is the day, or that was the war where gosh, my throat. That was the war where Israel captured Jerusalem. Okay? That's when Israel captured Jerusalem, because in the original way that the land was carved up is Israel did not have Jerusalem. Okay. I'm not going to go into the history of the borders. You can look into that yourself. But this is when Israel first officially got a hold of Jerusalem. And the war took place from June 5th and ended on June 10th, 1967. And what was in the old city of Jerusalem, right? Because you have like the western side, but the important part is the eastern side. The eastern side is where you have the Temple Mount. Okay. Let's see. Let me switch over to satellite. Here it is. Okay. Here's the eastern side, the old city. You can see it's all crammed together. It's small. This is the side that everybody wants. Here's the Temple Mount. Across from that, when you cross the Kidron Valley to the east, this is the Mount of Olives, right? So that's significant to me. You know why? Because this is the day that essentially Israel obtained one of the two world capitals during the millennium. Okay. And on that same day over here, so when Jews got public access to the Temple Mount, so to speak, or gain possession of it, on that same day in St. Louis, in this really significant state, an arch, which symbolizes access to the west, and directly west of that is where the second world capital is going to be. In Kansas, in the Kansas City area, in Independence, right? So I think that is pretty incredible. I think that's pretty incredible. Now, I'm not going to do it here because every time I pull up Google Earth, like the program Google Earth, it crashes. But I did measurements and I did lines and stuff like that. When you look at the arch, it's probably going to crash when I do this, but here's the arch right here. Let's go like this. So what I did on Google Earth is I wanted to see if you drew a line right down the middle, if it would go through Kansas City. Oh, there it goes. Hate that. Anyway, if you draw a line through the arch, I want to know, does it go to Kansas City? Does it go to Independence? And, it would be just like a rough estimate, but basically the line ends up going this way, kind of to the left like this. So it's not like right down the middle. And you can tell that just by like looking at it. I also did a line to see if it matched up with Salt Lake City. And the line, instead of going this way, kind of goes this way a little bit. but nothing that looks even close to like really down the middle. But regardless, it's interesting that the way that this is oriented, it is in the general direction of Salt Lake City and Kansas City, right? So, okay, so let's go ahead and let's zoom out. Let's go to this. So it's just interesting that you have, what you could say is like the Temple State or the New Jerusalem state of Missouri that has an entrance on the east. Okay. And then in the very far west, that's where you have the actual site for the temple. If we go to BYU's virtual New Testament, I've come here a number of times on the channel. You can see how we're looking at the second temple, the Herodian temple. This would be the temple at the time of Christ. This is a point of view from, this is the Mount of Olives right here. Okay, you turn around. So we're in the east, and you can see the temple over there. If you go west, here's the temple. And you have this main gate right here. This is called the Golden Gate, and it's also known as the Shushan Gate because it faces toward Persia. And I can't remember if it's called Shushan or Shusha. It was the capital of the Persian Empire. So you can just imagine it. You can imagine this is the St. Louis Arch right here. Or if you want, let's go to this point of view where we're directly above the temple. You can view this one on the inside as the arch, as the gateway arch, and then you go over here, you cross the state or the temple, and then you have the center place right here. And this would be like the New Jerusalem, right? That's how it corresponds. We can actually go down. Let me do this. I want to go to Temple Mount. And it starts you out right here. So this is like, pretend that this is the gateway arch. And then you walk through it. You're in the court of the women. You come over here. And the further west you go, the closer you get to the Holy of Holies. Here's the altar right here. In the slaughtering area, you go through here. And then you're in the holy place, and then here's the veil of the temple, and you go through here through the side, and then you're in the Holy of Holies. And the Ark of the Covenant isn't here because it wasn't there at the time of Christ. It had been lost. So I think that's pretty interesting. Let's go back here. I also looked at Pangea. This is like a concept of what Pangea would look like, along with national borders. We know that the world is going to come together in the millennium. Here in chapter 36 of the Doctrine and Covenants, the Doctrines of the Gospel Student Manual, the Lord's Second Coming. Point number 3 says the earth will reel to and fro, and the continents will be moved back together at the Savior's second coming. And this, you can find that in D&C 133 verses 22 through 24. And I want to read that. And it shall be a voice as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder, which shall break down the mountains, and the valleys shall not be found. He shall command the great deep, and it shall be driven back into the north countries, and the isles shall become one land. In the land of Jerusalem, in the land of Zion, shall be turned back into their own place, and the earth shall be like as it was in the days before it was divided. So right now, science believes that it probably looked like this. And even if this was the way it was, this isn't a guarantee that this is going to be how it is in the future. Although I guess it did say that it's going to return to how it was before it was divided. So Okay, so scratch that. If science is right, and this probably is, pretty close, then this might be the type of world that we're looking at in the millennium. So where's Israel on here? Israel is right here. Okay. You see Egypt. Here's Israel, Syria, Turkey. Okay. And then just directly west of that is the United States. And you can see St. Louis right here. And then right about here would be Kansas City. So I don't know. And that is a pretty straight line. And when I say straight line, I mean like when you're looking at the lines of longitude and latitude, this would parallel latitude somewhat. Maybe it's a little bit off, but who knows what it'll actually look like. What would be really cool is if when the world is brought together like this, if the archway, the what's it called? Gateway to the West, right? I already forgot. The Gateway Arch. If the Gateway Arch perfectly lined up with New Jerusalem and Israel. But in this case, it doesn't look like it does. It would kind of go, the way that it's oriented, it would kind of point down like this way, like that. Okay. Here's another view. It's basically the same. It's maybe just a little bit different, but here you can see this would be, Saudi Arabia right here. Here would be Egypt. And so Israel would be about right here, which again, here's a line of latitude right here, 25 degrees north. And so if Israel was like right about here, it would be maybe about the same latitude as New Jerusalem, potentially. So we'll just have to see how it actually turns out. But this part right here, the fact that this thing was opened on the last day of the 6-day war, when Israel obtained the Temple Mount, that just the connection there, I don't think that that's coincidence at all. I really don't. How does that happen? They couldn't have planned it. I don't think. Well, it was completed before then, but was somebody here in St. Louis like, okay, Israel's at war right now. Okay, this is good. Okay, good. You know what? Let's end it on. They wouldn't have known when the war was going to end exactly. So anyway, the same day that we gain access to the Temple Mount, we got this monument that symbolizes gaining access to over here. You can't make this up. It's too perfect. Is that all that I had to say for this one? Yeah, I think so. There's a picture of it on Wikipedia. The other thing that's actually interesting. Okay, I'm glad that I didn't end it. The other thing that's really interesting, if you've been watching my channel for a while, we've noticed the similarities between the BYU Jerusalem Center and the Independence Visitor Center. We know that the Independence Visitor Center was constructed in such a way that it could be turned into a temple whenever that time comes and we build up New Jerusalem. It was built to the same specifications as what the original temple was supposed to look like. In fact, how about we go there right now so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm going to need to look at the satellite view. It'll be easier. Okay, here it is right here. Let's go to the street view. Let's go right here. So there's the Community of Christ Temple across the street. But over here, you have our church's Independence Visitor Center. And a very peculiar feature of this is this arcade. Okay. An arcade is a row of arches like this. And, we've looked into this quite a bit. In fact, I have a playlist specifically about this visitor center, and I have one about the BYU Jerusalem Center. So we learned that in the diary of Alvin R. Dyer, he was the apostle that was in charge of the consecrated lands in Missouri. And when this was being constructed, the architect and him went to David O. McKay, the president of the church, and consulted with him how this should be done, because they wanted to make sure that it could be part of the future temple complex of 24 temples. It seems like that plan is still in place. And so they consulted with him, and then they created this. So this is designed to become a temple in the future. Now, with that in mind, okay, so this would be part of the World Capital Temple Complex, one of the World Capital's temple complex. When we go to the BYU Jerusalem Center, we're not gonna be able to do the street view. Let's go here. Let's go to the official site. Okay. This is what it looks like. Now, again, I've done an entire playlist on both of these. In fact, I'm going to pull that up, because if you have not seen these playlists or these videos in the playlist, you must watch them. It is incredible. Go over here to playlists, created playlists. Okay, I'm going to scroll all the way down so I have all of them up. Okay, let's see. BYU. Okay, here's the BYU Jerusalem Center full playlist. I'll put this in the description below. And then we have, let me see if I'll just, independent. Okay, it's right there. We've noted now, okay, before I get into this, there's going to be somebody that's going to want to lecture me about, we shouldn't talk about the BYU Jerusalem Center becoming a temple because we promised the Israeli government that we're not going to do anything with it. Oh, I talked to a professor. I went there and I studied there, and a professor told me, no, this is not a temple. You don't know that. And the agreement that we have with the Israeli government is that we won't proselytize. Okay, and that the center would not be used as a center for proselytizing. And the church is going to has made good on that, is going to continue to make good on that. And no, this probably isn't set up the way that a regular temple would be. But when you study about New Jerusalem and what Joseph Smith had planned for the 24 temple complex, not every one of those temples was going to be for ordinance work. There were going to be some that were for administration type purposes. There were going to be some that were going to be education centers. So a temple doesn't always have to be what we think of when we think of as a temple. So it very well could be that this right here, maybe after the second coming, the Lord, who's to stop the Lord from saying, okay, this is going to be my new administration building, or this is going to be my personal temple. And if there's going to be a complex in New Jerusalem, maybe there will be one in Jerusalem. So please don't come at me with, no, it can't be turned into a temple. No, my professor said that it's not going to be a temple. Blah, 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 blah. You don't know. Okay, there's a lot of miracles that went into this being a possibility. And a lot of those miracles, I talk about them in this playlist. Oh, and by the way, I compare the layout, okay, from the top view, compare that to Solomon's temple, the tabernacle, and it's a match. It's like a perfect match. So anyway, let's get back to this. So here we have what seems to be a future temple for one world headquarters. And then here we have one that I believe very well could become a temple in Jerusalem, which will be the other world headquarters. And they both have this peculiar arcade architecture to them. Interestingly, so those are two world capitals, right? Brazil, the country of Brazil, its capital, let's see, LDS Brasilia Temple. Let's go right here. So this capital of this country, it just so happens that its temple also has this arcade feature. And this actually looks pretty similar to this, right? With like the blocky tops, like you have like the 3 tiers, the bottom one, the middle, and the top tier. And then you have that kind of the same thing here. So anyway, so arches. We've also looked at the Salt Lake Temple. In fact, I have a playlist about the Salt Lake Temple. Let's see. Salt Lake. You should also watch this one, because we look at the church symbol, which is an arch. Okay. LDS church symbol. Pull it up. Take a look at it. I want like a bigger one though. Okay, here you go. Right? It's an arch. Yes, stop. I know that it's supposed to symbolize Christ coming out of the tomb. I know that. The actual tomb that they think was Christ's tomb, it's rectangular in shape, but that doesn't mean that this can't represent the tomb, but it can also symbolize more. And notice that there's an arch. And we've looked at the Salt Lake Temple, and this arch fits in the front door perfectly. It fits in the front door of the Salt Lake Temple. And these doors are sealed. You can't go through them. They're sealed because it kind of represents Christ when he comes for the second coming. Those are his doors that he enters in through. So, with that in mind, what is this symbol saying, do you think? Do you think that maybe he's at the doors? I think so. But anyway, the Salt Lake Temple has these arches on it as well. It doesn't have arcades, but let's see. Let's do Wikipedia Salt Lake Temple. You'll notice that this shape is like all throughout the temple. These Roman arches, you could call them. But they're here on the front. They're the shape of the doors on the side of the temple. They also have windows that are the same shape. Okay. So Salt Lake Temple, Brasilia Temple, which is a country capital, potential temple in the Millennium, the BYU Jerusalem Center. And again, the church would not go against the Israeli government and just like, it's not a bait and switch. Whenever it's done, if it is done, it'll be done properly by the correct authority, and it's not going to go against the laws of the country. And then you have the Independence Visitor Center. Arch. And then you have here this. You have this shape that represents access to the West that was open to the public on the same day that the Jews gained access to the Temple Mount. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. So, could I be wrong about all these connections? Of course. I'm not going to say that I'm right, because I don't know, but you don't know either. We'll just have to wait and see how things actually happen. But these are some pretty interesting connections at the very least. So that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, put your thoughts, your opinions, and especially if you have additional information, put it in the comments or just send me an email. I would really appreciate that. And I may make future videos about whatever you send me. Also, make sure to share this with anyone that's not really aware of this. And I'll talk to you guys later.